All right, guys, Happy New Year. Today we're going to cover 5 tips to achieving your real estate goals in 2025. So it's a new year, fresh start, and we want to help you guys achieve what your real estate goals are. So here, this is going to kind of go over the steps that we feel like are most important in order to making that happen this year. So
yeah. So first step is going to be figuring out what it is you're shopping for, right?
Yeah.
If you're looking for land, if you're looking for, a house with a bigger piece of land, or you're looking for a townhome, it just figure out with you, whoever it is, that's going to be maybe the spouse or just you, figure out what it is you're looking for. Number of beds, number of baths, type of house, layout of a house, garage, location, all that type of stuff.
I would do like a needs and wants list, write it out, figure out what's most important to you, because it's really hard for us to execute and help you guys if you don't even know exactly what you want. So if you can write it out and see it and really visualize like, okay, this is what we're wanting, then you can really start making it happen. So it all starts in the head.
Best thing is like, if you get super detailed on what it is, your criteria for your home, we can also get super detailed on our searches for you. And then that way, when we set up a search, like it may be only 2-3 homes on the market at that time, but you're only going to be seeing homes that hit all of your criteria. And that way we're not, sending you 30 different houses in a price range in a certain location. And then you're just overwhelmed because there's so many different properties to look at. So,
and I think a lot can happen in a year. Like I was pretty shocked at what happened in 2024. I remember when we did our, the first meeting of the year, one of my goals was like, I would like to start working towards having a house on more acreage. And I voiced that in the meeting, and it felt weird saying it because the house that we were in was great. It was fine. And it was kind of like a couple-year plan for me. And then randomly it ended up happening last year. So, and it's awesome. Now we're on 3 acres in the valley. And so we went from 1 to 3 acres and doubled the house size. And we're super excited. So I think it's never too early to start dreaming and visualizing and like putting that to paper and getting super clear on what it is you want to have happen, even if you feel like it might be further down the line than you think. Step 2 would start be building your team, like networking with agents. Hopefully you're calling us, but lenders, figure out what lender you feel like you want to use. And then title companies as well, like start building that A team so that when you're ready to hit the ground running and find that property, you have, a reliable network of people to fall onto when it comes to making that purchase. So
if you don't know where to start when building that team, I guarantee everybody knows either a lender, a title agent, or a real estate agent. And so start with whatever one you know, right?
Yeah.
Say if you know me, come to me, and then I can refer you to a handful of other title agents or lenders who I have worked with that do an awesome job. Obviously, you're free to shop them all. I would advise you to shop them all. As a matter of fact, when you're shopping for lenders and you're getting your credit pulled for a mortgage, you can actually pull your credit as many times as you want for a mortgage within a 45-day period. Now, it's a hassle because doing that, you're sending in documents, you're getting them a whole bunch of information that they need to actually qualify you. But just keep in mind that just because you start talking to, and this goes for everybody, just because you start talking to one agent, one lender, one title rep, whatever it is, you're not necessarily stuck with them until you maybe sign contracts and stuff. But other than that, you can shop them, figure out who you vibe best with, get you the best rate, best deal. Like that. So
yeah. And then step 3 would be get qualified or know your finances, figure out how you're going to make this happen. Because a lot of people, you just don't know. And that was our case. I didn't realize that we could still get qualified and keep our other house, right? Because I was like, well, we have to sell our other house first in order to be able to buy this other one. And I do this all the time. It was kind of crazy. And I talked with a lender and was like, actually, you could swing it without selling your house. I'm like, really? That's crazy. And then we just slowly started piecing it together and made it work. And it was like a 4 to 6 month process of just going back and forth with these sellers and making sure, like, originally we were going to try and sell our house first, but anyways, the plan changed a number of times throughout that process. But again, it's kind of a map, and it's not going to be like, oh, this is my vision and then I'm going to execute and it's a straight line. It's like goes all over the place because you have to like problem solve, and things aren't going to go as planned, and you might end up in a totally different direction as you get going through it, and you're like, actually maybe this isn't what I wanted in the beginning, and you can tweak that vision that you had when you first started. So know your finances, get qualified, know how you're going to pull it all together, and I'll let you cover number 4.
So number 4, we have just stay in the know on the market.
Yeah.
And by doing that is going to be staying in touch with your lender, staying in touch with your agent, just maybe doing your own research as well. I would advise that, but just staying in the know as to what's going on with the market, what are rates doing, and then just maybe market trends. Is the market trending up? Is it trending down? Is it pretty stagnant? Because just keep in mind, as say this spring, we come into it and market starts trending up and you are qualified, but you want to wait because you want to make more money, and then you buy something that's a little bit more expensive. Just keep in mind that as you're waiting, the market's going to keep moving up. So what you're looking to buy now may not be the same price in 6 months, 8 months, So,
Right.
Just stay up to date with market and what the market's doing. And that way you can make the best decision for you and your family.
Yeah. It's like we just bought a security system or cameras like for our house. And I researched like so many different companies just trying to see which one we wanted, what kind of cameras, and you kind of like get consumed by it. But that's what you kind of have to do in the real estate market, because you're not always going to be an expert in the area. But when it comes time to buy or sell, like that's the time to really get to know what's going on. Because like you said, things are always changing, always moving.
Yep.
So start getting in the know there. And especially when you're shopping for houses, like some of these smaller markets, like if you're trying to get into Morgan or Ogden Valley, where there's just not a lot of numbers, not a lot of units coming for sale, you want to have those connections. So potentially you can find something before it hits the market, or the more feelers you put out there, the better off you'll be. But it all starts with just that research and knowing what you want. And in the beginning.
On that same note, like if what you're looking for is pretty specific, whether it's like a specific neighborhood or whether it's specific square footage or type of home, be ready to pull the trigger, especially if it's in an area that doesn't have a lot of inventory, like Ogden Valley, like Morgan, or like maybe a very specific neighborhood in Davis County or something like that. Like, the key to success there is being able to be almost ready to pull the trigger at any moment, because if that right home hits the market and it's the right home, odds are you're not the only one looking for that property.
Yeah.
And so you need to be able to pull that trigger, obviously, toward the home, make sure it's the right home, do your own due diligence there. But ultimately you need to be able to pull the trigger if it's the right home. And if you wait too long, there's a lot of times you can miss it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you don't want to be ill prepared when it comes to this. Which I think a lot of people are. Like a lot of people kind of rush into it. They're like, they work backwards. Well, they find the house that they want, and then it's like, oh, I got to get qualified. I got to figure this out. I got to find.
And I think so many people they're scared to talk to a lender. Right. It's almost like they're committing to it without really knowing if they want to commit to it. And like that's not the case. Like it's okay if you're thinking 2025 is a year you want to try to get into a property or change what property you're in. Talk with a lender now. Get talking with them. Just it can be very casual. Hey, look, I'm just trying to see what it might be like. What are my options? What am I qualifying for? Where am I at? Like, what do I need to do to get ready to prepare? Like, so it doesn't. I have all the time. I feel like I have to, not with everybody, but a lot of clients. I feel like I have to almost push them. Hey, go talk with a lender, because ultimately we can't really do much. I mean, I'm happy to show you properties. I'm happy to kind of help you feel your way through the market, but ultimately we can't do anything until you go and speak with a lender and get qualified. And just like Hayden said, like his goal was to get more land on his next property, but that was for him at the time was 2-3 years down the road, but it ended up being the right property that year. And he's able to make it work. And so I just think that if you're timid or hesitant to talk with a lender because makes you feel like you're committed to something that you don't know if it's what you're going to be doing, like don't feel that way. Like, just be open with your lender, talk to him about it. Like that's their job. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Like we could even say some of this, you need to start planning years in advance.
Yeah.
I remember the first house I bought, I was meeting with lenders like a year or two before I bought my first house because I was trying to see like what do I need to have for income, and I didn't have the work history and showing my income on taxes when I was self-employed, like all that. Like I was meeting with people like the year before I filed taxes, being like, hey, if I show this much, is this good? Like, am I in a good spot? Making sure I'm like doing everything right so that I can hit my goal of eventually buying a house.
Yeah. Especially if you're self-employed, like you gotta be early because your 1099s, your accountant needs to be involved. And
so then step number 5 is just executing. Like, I think I was just meeting with some other people and we did a call and they're like, we'd like to get into a house if it feels right. Like if the right one comes up. And they're like, we almost bought one in 2019 and 2021 and like every year they've almost bought one, but they're still renting in this townhome. And I'm like, guys, like I think you need to change the thought from like if it works out to like, do you want to actually buy a house? And then like make it happen because
it's
people like, were you uncomfortable buying this last house?
Very. So when we bought our new build, we had to put down $40,000 in deposits. And what was somewhat freaky about that was the 40 grand couldn't come from our sale because we hadn't sold our house yet. And also that 40 grand was non-refundable. And so we put $40,000 down in the hopes of our old home selling for what we needed it to sell for. So that way we could, finish closing on our new house. Now that took a lot of research on our end and us, like I said, doing our own due diligence, but like, it's uncomfortable and it will stretch you. I remember buying our first house. We emptied everything. We were broke after buying that house. But the best thing about it is like, you make money by just owning the property and everything it's just more stable. Like you're not renting and then the next year your rent goes up and the next year your rent goes up. Like it's just like you have a set payment every month. I mean, obviously it can vary a little bit with taxes and stuff like that, but it's pretty set, but you're making money just by being in the market. And so even if it's not the perfect house, if it's your first house, it's better than no house.
Right. It's better than paying rent. Rent is 100% interest. And like, we obviously don't want you to get into a bad situation that you're going to regret and not be able to afford, but rarely is that the case. I think oftentimes it's always like this house that we just bought, our monthly payment like tripled. And I think people don't realize, like, I was used to like a $1,600 a month payment and now we're over $5,000 a month. And like, it's just like, but like, as we're here, I'm like figuring out ways that becomes normal and how to work it out. And like, we're renting part of the house and like, you just figure out ways to make it work. And that's how life goes. Like as humans, we get into these ruts and we feel very comfortable where we're at. And on any purchase, like if you were to look back when you bought the first townhome, you're like, why was I so worried? Like that was a no-brainer. That was easy.
By far the best decision we ever made. Like it was, I remember we were just a little backstory. My wife and I were gonna buy the townhome to actually flip it with paid-in, a way for us to make a little extra money and hopefully use that money to buy our first home. We walked the property and paid-in was like, why don't you guys just buy this? And we were like, because it's bad. Like it needed a lot of work. It was a smoke house and basically needed to be gutted, but we got looking into it and realized, well, maybe it might not be a bad idea. And so we ended up pulling the trigger on it and buying it and then gutting it and doing the remodel. And 2 years later, we sold it, avoided capital gains and made probably close to $140,000. That's way more than we would have made by just flipping the home. Now,
for sure.
Obviously not every situation's like that, but I feel like it's a pretty similar situation with almost everything, that just getting into the market's just best. And obviously we're not going to try and push you to do anything you're uncomfortable with, but
it's going to be uncomfortable a little bit. You'll have to be okay with that.
Yeah.
And that's part of executing. And that goes back to my story with this couple. Like, I'm like, you guys have been like sitting on the fence for a while. Eventually, like it just
be able to afford it.
Right. You're not going to be able to time the market. So if you have a goal or a vision or a dream for you and your family and where you want to be, like real estate and where you live and for your investment properties. Like it's like that's a big part. That's where every day where you're coming home to, that's where you live, that's where you call home. Like it's a big deal. Life's short. Why not be where you want to be?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
find a good place to plant your flag, call it home, and enjoy it. And if you don't like where you're at, you can change it. And this is kind of the process that you got to walk through in order to get to that final spot. But it just takes executing, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like once you have the plan in place, get uncomfortable, execute it. We'll help you. We've been there. We've done it before. It's not always easy, but it definitely is worth it. And you'll look
Yeah.
back and be like, man, I was a genius. Like that was I should have bought 5 of those, you know?
Well, like even like, just like us with like we're real estate agents, we do this on a regular basis. We go through these transactions all the time, and
Mhm.
it's uncomfortable for us.
Yeah.
We get it. Like
Yeah.
it's a big step. It's a big commitment, but obviously, you know, we're gonna keep your best interests at heart the whole way
Yeah.
through it. And
So hopefully this podcast helps you as you plan out your goals for 2025. And if you are hoping to get into a place in the year 2025 or buy a rental property or sell a house and relocate somewhere, reach out to us. We would love to help you out with that process. So
thanks, you guys.
thanks.